So how do you let AI do real work for you? The answer here is that Claude Cowork Dispatch and OpenClaw are two very different responses to that same question. Claude Cowork Dispatch is presented as Anthropic's official remote task feature inside Claude Cowork. So the idea is straightforward that you send a job from your phone and Claude executes it on your desktop while you are away. So the experience is meant to feel managed, polished, and secured with Anthropic's infrastructure sitting in the middle. OpenClaw is introduced very differently. It is described as a free open source AI agent that runs on your own machine. It comes with more than 100 built in skills and can connect different large language models to your files, shell, browser, and APIs. Now we can also look at the architecture of both the tools. So for dispatch, the task starts on the phone, goes through Anthropic servers, reaches Claude desktop, runs on your machine, and the result comes back to you in the Claude application on your laptop. So even though work often happens locally on your desktop, the system is still routed through Anthropic's cloud. For OpenClaw, the message can come through Telegram, WhatsApp, or the command line. Then the OpenClaw daemon running on your machine receives it, matches the right skill, executes locally, and only calls a large language model depending on which model you choose. That means the control structure is much more local and model agnostic. And in terms of the key metrics, Dispatch starts at $20 a month through a Claude Pro subscription. OpenClaw is free as software with optional API costs depending on the model you use. And OpenClaw is framed as having 100,000 plus GitHub stars and 100 plus built-in skills. So if I were to summarize these two comparisons, it would be that these two products are trying to unlock AI-powered action, but one does it through a managed cloud-linked product, which is Anthropic's agent, and the other one, which is OpenClaw, does it through a local open source agent model. Now let's move on to a feature comparison between both these products. So we will start off showing where the trade-offs actually are. So the first category is setup and onboarding. So Dispatch is described as easier to install. So you install Claude Desktop, update the mobile app, enable Cowork, turn on file access, and you are ready in minutes. On the other hand, OpenClaw takes more work. You need to install and run scripts, configure messaging platforms like Telegram or WhatsApp, and add API keys. So right away, the document, what we're trying to say here is that Dispatch is easier for the average user, while OpenClaw gives flexibility but asks more from you. So the next category of comparison is privacy and security. Dispatch commands through Anthropic servers, and this is a strong managed security, but less privacy for raw instruction content. OpenClaw keeps data on your own machine unless you choose to use the cloud large language models. It can even be fully air-gapped if you run local models. So this is a major philosophical difference. Then comes automation power. Dispatch is positioned as good for structured step-by-step workflows. It is useful for one-off tasks like asking the system to do something while you are away, say, walking on the park and trying to do something. But it is not event-driven. So it's very important to understand that difference. OpenClaw, on the other hand, can run continuously. And there are examples like server-side alerts, daily reports, and multi-platform responses, which OpenClaw can easily look into. So this is where OpenClaw starts to look less like task runner and more like a background automation system. Also, we can look at the pricing of both these products. So Dispatch uses a subscription model, which makes cost more predictable. OpenClaw is a free software, and you only pay for the API calls if you decide to use the cloud models. So one is predictable and packaged, which is a Dispatch, and the other one, which is OpenClaw, is flexible and usage-based. Then there is a large language model flexibility. A Dispatch is a Claude only. You can only use a Claude model, whereas OpenClaw is model agnostic, which means you can use Claude, GPT, Gemini, or even a local Olama models. That matters a lot for developers and builders who want choices amongst the models. And the final comparison is between the interface and the access. So the Cowork Dispatch has a polished mobile app and it's clearly designed for non-developers, whereas on the other hand, OpenClaw runs through a command line interface and messaging apps and is more developer oriented, though also more extensible. And basically, if we do an overall comparison, Dispatch is easy, polished, proprietary, and task based, while OpenClaw is local, open source, flexible, always on, and more technical. Also, we need to answer another important question when we are evaluating both these options, that what do you want to gain and what do you give up with each of these approaches, right? Having done this comparison between these two models, these two products, now let's move on to comparison and recommendation as to which of these is right for you. So there is no single winner here because both have their pros and cons. The right choice really depends on what you value. If you choose a Claude Cowork Dispatch, you are probably wanting something that just works for you. Maybe you are already paying for the Claude Pro subscription, and maybe you want a polished mobile first experience and you want to start using these AI agents. Maybe you like the idea of casually delegating tasks, like asking AI to do something while you are in a meeting. And maybe you're more comfortable trusting Anthropic's managed setup than configuring a local system yourself. On the other hand, if you choose OpenClaw, the analysis is that you probably care more about power and control. Privacy may be non-negotiable, and you may always want an always-on automation, scheduled reports or alerts. You may want to swap large language models, run fully offline, or even build custom skills. And the cost control may matter enough that you prefer paying per API call rather than paying for a subscription product like Claude. So the bottom line is that the comparison at this stage is that Claude Cowork Dispatch is framed as Anthropic's answer to the idea of an AI on your desk that you can trigger from your mobile phone. It is seamless and easy, but cloud dependent. On the other hand, OpenClaw is framed as the open source alternative. It is rougher around the edges, but more flexible, more private, and more extensible. And I think that is the most useful way to do an analysis between these two products. That it is not really about which tool and what is better, but it is actually about which workflow you are working on and which workflow and how much power do you actually want with the systems you are working on. Hopefully this was useful and looking forward to share more later.